me now. Come with me now. Go with me now. I'm gonna take you down. Go with me now. I'm gonna show you how. Go with me now. I'm gonna take you.
Last time we talked about a lot of behavioral type economics. So in this class, though, what are we trying to do? It could be numbers. I don't know. So nobody, no? Okay. Anybody want to venture a guess? There's actually a real definition. Yeah? Oh, good. There's like a Greek word. I think it's economos or something like that. And well, it's not just money, though. You could have an economy without money at all. So, but it comes from a Greek word that basically meant managing the household, which sounds kind of weird. But basically, it's how do we make use of very limited, finite resources in order to satisfy our unlimited wants. That's basically what it is. I'm going to put that up here in a little while, so I'm not going to repeat it, okay? So that's what we're going to learn today. We're going to know, well, we've already covered some of the terminology. Whoops, back it up. Hey, I'm not used to the smartboard. But we're going to cover the economizing problem is basically what we call it. That's the idea that everything's scarce, and therefore you have to use things wisely in order to satisfy all your wants. Did anybody have trouble doing the Kia syllabus thing? Raise your hand if you don't know what I'm talking about. Volleyball girls, y'all got it? Cool. All right. So today we'll do lecture discussion. You have another assignment. It is Kia Unit 1, Lesson 1. It's also a fairly simple exercise. It's just kind of a reiteration of the notes that we went over today in class. So it's a lot of definition type things. We don't know enough yet to start doing analysis and applying what we've learned. So it's just definitions, reinforcing what we learned today. Okay? Did anybody not do the actual syllabus thing? Like you knew what we were talking about, so you didn't raise your hand, but did anybody not do it? Okay, if you didn't, that's the only exercise that I'll accept late. So if you didn't do it, feel free to do it, and I'll put it in as a grade later. All right, any questions? There's probably going to be a little minor daily quiz on Wednesday over what we do today. All right, can I roll? Yeah, it's over definitions of what we do today. All right, cool.
People, we live in California. This is our home. This is where we live. Growing food is so good for the people because it's free. All you have to do is pay the farmers and pay for the land. But why do you have to pay for the land? The land's free. It's new land, you know. When you have to pay for the land, you have to pay rent, you have to pay. The food's free. So we should just sell it at the farmer's market.
All right, so basically, huh? Yeah, the East Coast. Have you ever been to the East Coast? All right. She mentioned a whole lot of things that have to do with like economic thought, things and stuff and all that. But the problem is that most of it wasn't true. So, all right, settle down. So the point is, if you study economics, you won't end up like that. You're going to actually be able to articulate thoughts and be correct in your assumptions as far as the economy goes. So that's why we're studying this. So what is economics? Here we go. Whoops. There we go. It's just in a nutshell, economics is the science of scarcity. So we're studying those scarce resources, and what do we do with all those scarce resources? We use them to produce things that we want, okay? So we learned last time that, well, we didn't learn this. Hang on. In a second, well, we're going to show you something up here, but just listen to Arnold Schwarzenegger for a second, okay? And see if you agree. Here it is. Come on. Sorry, I can't get the timing right. There it goes.
We need more roads, more hospitals, more schools, more nurses, more teachers, more police, more fire, more water, more energy, more ports, more.
All right, have you ever heard that we need stuff, right? And you see political leaders always saying that, well, we need to do this, and we're going to do this, and this. I mean, you know, new roads and bridges, and who knows what else, right? The question, though, for society is, how do we provide those things? Do we just do it, or do you have to give up something in order to do those things? You have those trade-offs, remember from last class? So the problem is that to satisfy these unlimited wants and the needs that we have very limited resources. Okay?
Come on, give us some tots. Come on, give us some tots. No, freaking start. We don't get to eat anything today.
The question here is there enough tots? Can we all have tots? If I have a plate full of tots right here, can we all have them? Only if I share, right? Can we all have as much as we want? No, because there's not enough. Okay, so we have limited resources. So just remember, we have unlimited needs and wants, but limited resources. So we have to make choices. This is where, Corbin, what do we call it? The trade-offs? Okay, so they force us to make trade-offs. Now, we're going to use a different term for those trade-offs in a second. Okay, but keep this in mind. Scarcity of resources forces us to make choices. The trade-off is this, Corbin, the opportunity cost. So the thing you give up in order to get what you want is your opportunity cost. We used some examples last class about some of y'all made decisions, and one of the decisions you might have made was to get up out of bed and come to school. What'd you have to give up in order to get up out of bed and come to school? So your opportunity cost was sleep, okay? Now, you give up a lot of things, though. You also gave up going to Six Flags for the day, or you gave up, you know, going to the movies, whatever it is. You gave up a lot of things, right? So the opportunity cost is your second best choice, okay? You have like dozens of things you could actually do each day, but the second best alternative is called your opportunity cost. Any questions there? Okay, opportunity cost is very important. That's like your first definition in economics that you've got to know. All right, so economics, as far as it goes, it's actually a social science. So just like all sciences, there's experiments and there's theories, and then we end up with laws and things like that. The difference, though, is that this isn't an exact science, okay? Our lab is the real world. We don't have, like, controlled experiments. We try to, but it's very difficult. Look at this stuff here. You see that? That's neat. Anyway, the point is that we can try to predict human behavior using the marketplace, okay? It's not like chemistry and physics where there's an exact answer. In this class, we have a likely answer. Any questions? You don't have to write down all this stuff word for word, okay? But the point I made is that it's not an exact science. It gives likely results. And then this down here is actually kind of interesting because the girl from, what was it, Santa Barbara? Or no, Santa Cruz. She was discussing a lot of economic stuff as far as policy goes, where you have the economy and the government kind of together. So it's discussed a lot, the economy is, but it's also very little understood. People don't understand it very well when they're discussing it. Okay? And I'll demonstrate some of that today. All right, y'all ready? You say no? No, because they're. Well, I got about 10 years ago, I got a lot of PowerPoints from Mr. Norman, who was here. And over those years, I've changed them and made them more mine. And yeah, they take hours. All these videos, I find videos that I like, and then I steal them from YouTube. All right. Y'all listen carefully. All right. Is Jill being lied to? Just answer that. Yes or no? Huh? How so? Why not? Everybody agree with Corbin? All right. Yeah, Jill's being lied to. She cannot have everything that she wants. Okay? The reason she can't is because we have limited resources. And what are the resources? You could write this down. We have 4 resources. We have land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial ability. So if you look at anything that you purchase, anything you spend money on, it's made up of these 4 ingredients. Okay? And if you want, you can try to think of something that isn't. I might have at one time, but I don't think I can't right now. Huh? Did you say love? Well, I don't know. There might be a labor of love, maybe. I don't know. All right, love doesn't count. You can't buy love, so it has to be something you buy. Huh? A boyfriend? All right.
Greed is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
Anybody know who that is? Yeah, y'all are getting... The movie's a little old for you. It's from Wall Street. Not... It was Michael Douglas. Okay? And what did he just say? All right, greed is good, greed is right, greed works. Okay? Now, the word he uses is very hard for us to get behind because it's an awful word, isn't it? Greed's not good, is it? What's your name again? Alex? No. Diana, dang it. All right, I had the whole seating chart memorized. So I don't know your names, but I know who used to sit there. All right, so let's see. Greed is good, greed works. I forgot what he said, but basically, at a Catholic school, we can't say that's true, right? But we're going to change the wording to self-interest is good. Okay? And now let's try to figure out why that would be good. Why is doing what's best for you good? Why would that be good? I'm going to wait for somebody to think about it and see if they can answer that. Helps you survive, I guess. Why can't you just survive? That's true. This one's a little bit different. When I give you examples, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's true. And it actually is true for pretty much everybody. All right, let's do an example. How many of y'all ate breakfast this morning? All right. Corbin, why not? All right, the girl that bullies you, what is her name? Ariel. Okay. Ariel, you had breakfast this morning, right? How were you able to get it? And she got it for you because she loves you, right? What did you eat? Oatmeal. Where did she get that oatmeal? Do you know? Why did the store give it to your mom? Do they love your mom and you? Then how did she get it? Yeah, but how? Why would the store provide that to your mom? That's crazy. Whoa, back up. Are you saying that the store provides us with goods and services because we're going to give them money? So they wouldn't do that if we didn't give them money? Where does the store get that oatmeal? Okay, from the manufacturer? Okay, and the manufacturer gives it to the store, right, Ariel? No. They sell it. And where does Quaker Oats get the oatmeal? Huh? It comes from an oat tree, according to the girl from Santa Clara. No, what happens is this, okay, the farmer, he gets up at 5 in the morning every day to grow oats for you because he loves you, right? He doesn't care anything about you. Why does he do it? All right, he wants some money, so let's talk about that. Is he being greedy? The only reason he's getting up at 5 in the morning is because she somehow is getting him money. That's true. Okay? But here's why they're saying greed works or self-interest works, okay? If the farmer didn't get up at 5 in the morning because he's getting paid, how would you eat? It's like you'd have to grow your own food. But the fact is that since there's a profit motive for this farmer to get up and make food, it benefits all of us, right? Okay, so that's how it works. That's what that's meant by. So in our system, we do things in our best self-interest, but as a society, we all benefit from it. Now, there's exceptions. You know, obviously, if you're doing things that are, you know, bad that you want to do and it hurts somebody, then that wouldn't work. But in general, you know, the goods and services that are provided to us are provided to us because of the profit motive. And so that's how all these resources are turned into all of these other things that we want. It's based upon the profit motive, basically. Okay? Except for your mom. She loves you. Okay? Also, are you 18 yet? Okay, the law says she has to take care of you. I'm sorry to... You know what, though? When's your birthday? Okay, that's a long way off, but on your birthday in March, if she still gives you oatmeal, then you can say, she loves me. Okay? All right. I quit taking care of my kids. So this is another little story about resources and self-interest. Okay?
Chances are you've been using one since before you could even read or write. But just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's simple. In fact, it's complicated, elaborate, beautiful, elegant. Its very existence is too improbable for any one person to truly comprehend. These are the basic materials that go into a pencil: graphite, cedar, metal, and rubber. But if you had all the elements of a pencil right in front of you, could you make a pencil? It's not as easy as you might think. In fact, no single person on the face of the earth could do it without the help of countless others. And this is the key to understanding the world. A pencil, just like you and me, is the end result of a vast, intricate family tree, a symphony of human activity that spans the globe. Through their work and knowledge, a vast number of people have had a hand in making this simple pencil. Unlike your family tree, this one begins with an actual tree. The most immediate ancestor of the pencil is a cedar tree in the Pacific Northwest. But the loggers who harvest the timber are also its ancestors. And these men don't work alone. They, in turn, are assisted by the people and industries that produce the saws, rope, and countless other tools that they use. These are also the ancestors of our pencil. As is the waitress at a nearby diner who sells the logger's lunch, to say nothing of the thousands of people involved in producing that simple midday meal. Across time and space, the web grows. Consider the roads, trucks, ships, communication systems, and the people who design, build, and maintain them. All of them are necessary in the abundant mills and slab factories that process them. All of them are also the ancestors of the pencil. And even with the work of all these people, so far all we have is a stained wooden slab, a naked half of a wooden body of a pencil. Each part of the pencil is the result of the collaboration and cooperation of millions of people. Together, they form a process that is constantly changing and adapting. A change in the availability or cost of material from one place might make another source more desirable, and the process changes and adapts to another. And there is a fact that's still more astounding: the absence of mastermind, of anyone dictating these countless actions to bring the pencil to being. Each member of this family tree supplies only a small amount of the necessary know-how needed to make
Yeah, we're going to get rid of that. Okay. Sorry. We don't need to watch the whole thing. But did y'all get the kind of the message? It's like there's so many forces involved in bringing just one simple little thing to market. And then I like to, I don't know if y'all picked up what he said, something about there not being a single mastermind. It's like billions of people making millions of and billions of decisions on their own that gets you that pen or pencil. Okay, that's what the economy is. It's like, how do those resources get sent to wherever they're needed to produce all of those goods and services? Okay, and the basic underlying thing is the profit motive. Okay, that's how things get to you, is because somebody is earning a profit. All right, so this idea of scarcity, okay, the science of scarcity is economics, and the idea that all resources are scarce forces us to make choices. And so we have to answer a set of questions from those choices. So what are we going to produce? That's one question the economy answers. Okay, how to produce it is another question, and then who receives that production? All right, those are, all economies have to answer these questions. It doesn't matter if we're in a free market economy like ours, or if it's a command economy like North Korea. All right? So how do you think in our economy we answer those questions? What is produced? Okay, highest demand, that's good. It is, and that would be what we either need or want for sure. Okay, so let's answer this question. Why? Well, raise your hand if you have a Razor phone. Remember the Razor? Do you have one? Do you still use it? Why not? Okay. So basically, our economy has decided to stop producing the Razor phone, correct? And why does our economy not produce it anymore? You answer that. Yeah, the demand for new technology. I'm going to give you a nickel for today. Yeah. So basically, that's what to produce, okay? What is produced by businesses is what's in demand by consumers. And again, they're following the profit motive, okay? If the Razor's no longer in demand, people aren't going to buy it, so why would they want to produce it, okay? How to produce. This one's a little more complicated, or at least it's not necessarily complicated. It's just, let's think about it this way. Corbin, pick a person in here so you can help me learn names. Katie? Okay. Katie, did you buy anything recently? Can you think of something? Clothes? This actually isn't a bad example. What clothes? What'd you get? A dress? Do you think your dress was handmade? Or do you think it was made using some sort of machinery? Do you think it was made in the United States, or do you think it might have been made somewhere else? Okay. Why do you suppose that is? Yeah. And that's because you want to pay less, right? So how to produce is going to be based on competition. I'm going to use a different example. I think it's more concrete. Hers is good too, but how many of y'all drive a handmade car? And then answer that question, why don't you drive a handmade car? Yeah, if I started my own handmade car company, how long do you think I would stay in business? Not very long, because the guy across the street mass produces cars. Mine costs $100,000, his costs $10,000. Where are people going to buy their car? Most people, from the other guy, right? So how to produce is basically, in a market system, how to produce ends up being the most efficient way possible, because consumers are going to demand that their production be efficient. Okay? Who receives that production? This one's the one that's very unfair. Who receives it? Yeah, but who are they? Well, they don't have to be rich. They're the people with money. Yeah. It's whoever has the money is who receives it. So the market system is very much, the pricing is a very important mechanism. Money's important in this. So basically, in a market system, what's produced is what's in demand. How to produce it the most efficient way possible. Who gets it is going to be the people with money. Now, a command system is different. what to produce is decided by, y'all can fill in the blank, huh? No, government. Okay, market is the first one. Okay, how to produce it would be determined by, say it again. And who receives the production is determined by government. Okay, good. So in the command economy, you have that thing called the mastermind that decides what everything's going to be. A market system uses the economic forces to decide all of those things. Okay. By the way, that's pretty much all we're going to do as far as covering the market versus command economies. There's like, you'll see like maybe one or two questions on a test about those, but that's all we're really going to cover. This is a quick little video explaining how, sort of how the market system works.
Spontaneous order is a pattern of action that emerges among diverse individuals through a process of trial and error rather than through a process of top-down central planning.
When order arises because of the free interplay of supply and demand, of voluntary, mutually beneficial transactions between free people, it can be said to be spontaneous.
People might be kind of surprised that order emerges spontaneously, but through voluntary interaction, particularly voluntary interaction in the markets, people are able to create and generate the sort of unplanned information that ultimately helps to guide people's decisions.
Order can be very, very spontaneous, and I think the reason why it's not obvious or appreciated because it happens so routinely.
Spontaneous order doesn't just exist in the world of economics. It's something that happens all around us in surprising ways.
I think one of the very, very important things that happens spontaneously without government control, and mainly that's language.
No social authority has ever commanded that we all speak a certain way. Language is developed in a rather evolutionary way, in a way that benefits everybody.
Without a central planner, individual people still make plans and decisions on their own and send signals to others without knowing it. And even in completely unplanned systems, patterns can begin to emerge that are both beautiful and unpredictable.
Well, I think that sometimes people resist the idea that order can happen spontaneously because of the arrogance of mankind. I think that we think that there needs to be planning, and when the case is, that's not the case at all.
One of the great signs of progress in our social thinking has been the discovery that people don't need these central authorities to tell them what to do, that there are powerful forces in marketplaces that send the right signals.
Oh, this is a pencil.
This company that sell it here, spend it there.
Go together.
FAI talked about spontaneous order. He expressed it this way. He said that the curious task of economics is to convince men of little they know about what they imagine they can design. What he was saying there
I think
was
we're good
that
on that. Y'all get the point though, right? In this class, what we're studying is the free market system and how price signals help us to determine what's produced, how to produce, and who gets it. That's how the supply and the demand stuff that we're going to learn later all fits together. And do y'all have any idea what the video was talking about as far as signals that we send to one another? No, that's it. That's good though. Anybody ever sell anything on eBay? Never? You ever seen an auction? Okay. Auctions are like a microcosm of what our whole society does, okay? As it's determined that people will buy something at a specific price, that's sending a signal, okay? We send signals to the market all the time by doing that. And if suddenly we decide we're not going to buy something, guess what signal gets sent? That we don't want it, don't produce it, or maybe the price is too high, okay? So those are the kinds of signals we send. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about economic methodology. So we're going to learn very briefly about economic theory and how theory can become law. But theory comes from these two sources, okay, induction and deduction. So induction is simply seeing a bunch of facts and then forming generalizations. Okay, last class we said don't overgeneralize, but sometimes you can generalize. Okay, if you see a set of facts, you can come up with some sort of theory. Okay, so as an example of induction, we'll say, does everybody remember Kish was late? Okay. So there's a fact. She was late. Can y'all think of some theory as to why she might have been late? Okay, that could work, right? Okay, what else could it have been? Huh? She was thirsty, had to get water. Okay. Anything else? She had to go to the bathroom. Talking to friends. See, there's all kinds of things, but only we only have one fact, so it's very, very hard to come up with a theory based on one fact. So let's add to it. Okay. She's late, and when she gets here, she's wet and out of breath. Okay, she's late because she fell in a puddle. What else? It was raining outside. Just got back from swim practice. She doesn't smell like chlorine, though. Oh. This could be sweat. She did the ice bucket challenge. There you go. She didn't want to give money to those researchers. She's going to soak herself instead. All right. Y'all get the point, though? Okay, how about this one? She's late. She's soaking wet, but the sun is shining. Sweat sprinkles. So see, the more facts we get, the easier it's going to be to come up with a theory, okay? So induction is just finding facts and then developing a theory, okay? So guess what deduction is? It's going to be the opposite. We have a theory, and now we're looking for facts. So the next one's deduction.
Allow me to congratulate you on a brilliant bit of deduction.
All right. So deduction means I have a theory. I think the reason Kish was late was because she was what? She fell in a puddle. Okay, now I'm looking for facts to support it. Is she wet? Is it raining outside? Does she have mud on her feet? You know, stuff like that. So deduction is just the opposite. We have a theory, now we look for facts to support it. Okay? By the way, theories and generalizations, they're the same thing. But once you have a theory, and then you can test it, and it works, then you can get some economic law. Okay, are we good to go? These are not hugely important for the whole course, just on the next test. Yes, ma'am? Yeah, you have an idea. You know, it's like, well, how about I do this? I'll give you a better one. In economics, it's not about Kish, okay? It would be something like, well, I have a theory that if we lower taxes, people will buy more stuff. Okay, so what I do is I lower taxes and then I see what happens. I look for facts to then support my theory. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So next thing in economics you're going to find, I don't think we had anybody in this class, but in one of my classes we had that guy. Do y'all know that guy? There's always that guy, and don't be that guy, but here's what that guy says. You know, I'd give him something, and I'd tell him something, you know, a scenario, and he came up with but what if this? You can't be that guy. There's no what ifs, okay? Because in this class, what we do is we're going to end up doing what I call abstracting. We're gonna take something really, really complicated and boil it down to two main variables, so that we can ignore everything else. And so what we're doing that is we're basically omitting minor details. So here we have a map of LA. I want to get from one point to another. This map would work for me because I can concentrate and I can figure out detailed things. But how many of y'all don't like maps? Okay, yeah, see? So you could use this map. Now, what did this map do that's different from the other one? It's very simple. It left out a lot of unimportant details. You don't need to have, where'd it go? Back it up. You don't need to have all these stupid streets over here. You can even read them anyway. So we get rid of the unimportant details. We focus on what's more important. Okay, that's what we're going to end up doing in this class. And a lot of y'all are going to be like, but what if? And are you going to be that guy? You might be, but don't. Okay? So ceteris paribus is what this is called. Okay? That just means that we're holding all other things constant. Okay? So especially when we start looking at graphs, this will make more sense, because a graph that's basically, you know, a y-axis and an x-axis, has two variables, right? That's all you can have. Therefore, you have to leave out a whole bunch of other things. Okay, so ceteris paribus just means all other things held constant, something along those lines. Okay, I'm paraphrasing. Are y'all good? Oh. That's okay. Have you been worried about this whole class? Oh, you just now thought about it? Are you here? I think you're here. But are we really here? What if our whole life is just somebody else's dream, man? Right? No, you're here. I didn't count you tardy or absent. You're here. All right. So in economics, we use models to tell a story. So like this. You got a y and an x-axis. That's a model. Has two variables only. If you had three variables, it would become complicated to draw. Although I saw those in grad school, there is such a thing as a three-dimensional graph, which is very confusing. So charts are useful in many disciplines. Lots of people use charts and graphs because they simplify a story. Okay? Words can be interpreted in many different ways. They're just too ambiguous. So charts. Would y'all agree that pictures tell stories better than sometimes words? I mean, words are good, but pictures are worth like a bunch of words, I think somebody said. Like 1,000 even, yeah. So that's why we use those, okay? So basically, the whole point of economics is that if we understand human behavior, we can then create policy. And so that's when you start getting the economy into the hands of policymakers, which you can think of as government types, okay? So policy, this is concerned with controlling or influencing economic behavior. Okay, remember last class I talked about, actually I don't know if I talked about it in this class, but if for some reason, I don't know, let's say Kish was late for class and she got a tardy. What happens if y'all get a bunch of tardies? A detention? That's a policy, basically, okay? Somebody who's in charge of the school sets policy stating that if you're late a certain number of times, you get a detention. So they're assigning a cost to that type of behavior. Does that help? Does that cut down on tardies at all, you think? Yeah, it's stuff like that. So that's all policy is. It's designed to influence our behavior economically, okay? And if it comes from good theory, then it's very useful in predicting what's going to happen in the future. Okay, here's some actual examples in economics. If we lower interest rates and or give tax deductions for people buying a house, then people are going to buy more houses. Does that make sense? Do y'all know what interest rates are? Sometimes yes or no? Corbin, were you in the last class? Yeah. Has he talked about interest rates yet? You probably know what they are, though, right? How many of y'all have a savings account? And you earn 0.0000001% per year in that thing, right? That's interest rates. Okay, if you borrow money, you have to pay it back with extra money attached. That's interest rates. So if you reduce that extra money when you borrow money, it's easier to borrow money. Makes your payments lower. So that's an idea that would help the housing industry because people are more likely to buy houses. Okay? Everybody cool with that? All right. Sometimes policy can have unintended consequences. So we're going to look at this one. I like this example because it even goes further than what they talk about. there's more they didn't even talk about. So if the government wants you to use corn to create gasoline, what can the corn then not be used for? Food, right? They talked about it with food prices. If there's not enough corn to feed your cattle, there's not going to be as many cattle, so the price of beef goes up. But what about people whose staple diet involves corn? Huh? What? Well, what if that's all they have? I mean, I'm talking about all the people I met in Honduras and Nicaragua over the years. They eat corn all the time, rice, beans, and then corn tortillas. And if the worldwide price of corn goes up because we're using so much of it to make gasoline, then what's going to happen to their food budget? They have to spend more on it. And that means they can't spend it on something else, right? Because we learned about that opportunity cost. So there's unintended consequences with all policy. And that's not to say that making policy is bad. It's just you need to be aware that policy is determined by it's a political process. Policy and politics, they come from the same word, polis, okay? So you just need to know that people, when they make decisions, make mistakes sometimes, okay? I'll give you more examples of unintended consequences. Have you all heard of cash for clunkers? What is that? You got it? Huh? Fight it out. Fight it out. So you can talk louder. Yeah, very good. So why would there be unintended consequences? That sounds like a great idea. We'll save gas. That's a resource that is limited, so we could save that. Sounds like a great plan to me. Huh? Well, that's why the government's giving you extra money for your clunker so that you can afford to buy a new car. How are you going to get rid of it? Oh, when you trade it in on a new car. Oh, what they do is this. I can tell you the exact process because I asked. And we actually took advantage of this several years ago. They take the old clunker, and I forget what they fill. They fill the engine block with something, some sort of acid that destroys it so it can't be used anymore. Then they sell the clunker to a salvage yard that actually crushes it. It has to be crushed so it can no longer be used. That's what happens to it. We gave them an Infinity, a 1991 Infinity J30 or what, I forgot, I30, I forgot what they're called. It was possessed. It had some electronic issues, so that when you open the gas tank filler door while you're pumping gas, the horn would blare. It had gremlins, so we didn't want it anyway. Yeah. Yeah, it had a sunroof that. Yeah. So it had gremlins anyway, but we didn't need it. Here's the unintended consequence. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, they wanted to do two things. They wanted to get polluting cars off the road, and they wanted to jumpstart the auto industry because this was during the recession. Okay. All right. Here's your unintended consequence. Who drives older used cars? No, I mean who in general? Not just teenagers. Who else? Huh? It's not just old people. Old people have a lot of money. Lower socioeconomic people, okay? So the poor drive older cars, okay? If there's fewer older cars, what do you think happens to the price of the older cars that still exist? It's going to go up. Yeah, we haven't learned that yet, but if there's less supply, you're going to have higher prices. So basically what ended up happening is this. It raised prices in the used car market. So it helped the auto industry, and it helped pollution, but who did it hurt? It hurt the used car industry and then those that buy used cars, which are poor people. All right. Yeah, let's skip one. Minimum wage. I really like this one. This one's counterintuitive. When you think of minimum wage, you think, oh, that's good that there is a minimum, but there's an unintended consequence. Who makes minimum wage in general? Yeah, lower socioeconomic, maybe people with fewer skills, less education, stuff like that. So let's say who in here is an upstanding, good citizen type person? Fez. All right, Fez. Let's say Fez goes down somewhere in, I guess what people would call the hood, maybe. And, huh? The what? I don't know that. Okay. Well, basically, let's say they're down in South Dallas somewhere. Fez goes down there. He wants to get a job at a McDonald's, and he's got a little bit of competition. He's got another guy who's from the local neighborhood there as well, trying to get the job. It's a minimum wage job, and the owner is going to hire one of them. Who's he going to hire? You just have to use your imagination. Who do you think he's going to hire? He's going to get Fez. Because Fez is clean cut, he's nice looking, he's well spoken, he's got a little bit of education. And so the minimum wage is designed to help whom? Not Fez. It's trying to help him, right? But what ends up happening is all these people end up hiring nice, well-groomed, semi-educated teenagers. That's too bad. We'll talk more about that one. Let's see, what else? Luxury taxes. Anyway, that's enough, I guess. Harry Truman once said, I wish there was a one-handed economist, because all the time economists are saying, well, on the one hand, we're going to help the auto industry and reduce pollution, but on the other hand, we're going to hurt poor people who want to buy used cars. And so he just wanted an economist with one hand, so they couldn't do that anymore. All right. So basically, we learned how facts and theories are related, right? Induction and deduction. Okay. We get us theories. Theories help explain people's behavior, okay, using incentives usually. And once we have those theories, policymakers can make policy, okay? The two biggest policymakers as far as the economy goes in our country are up here. Y'all know this one. Who's this? Anybody know that one? Good. It is a woman. Okay. All right. I'm not going to tell you. You'll learn later. Oh, sure. I'll go back. Technically, no, because technically the place she works for is not part of the government, although it is controlled by the government. You forgot her name? That's who it is. Used to be Ben Bernanke, but last spring Janet Yellen took over for him. All right, can we go now? All right, so those policymakers, these people in charge of policy, if they want to influence your behavior and therefore the whole economy, there's 8 goals that they have, okay? Some of these goals are going to go hand in hand with one another, all right? Kind of like, how many of y'all play football? Okay. You want to get bigger, faster, stronger, right? Do all 3 of those things always come together? Sometimes you get bigger and stronger, but what happens to your speed? It goes down, right? Same thing here, okay? Some of these policy goals are going to go hand in hand, like bigger and stronger, but faster sometimes, so there's a balancing act. If you get too big and strong, you lose too much speed. So, you got to balance it out. Same thing here, okay? So the first goal, not necessarily in order, but definitely the first 4 are probably the most important, okay? But economic growth is number 1. Okay, if you have economic growth, generally speaking, most of the other goals will take care of themselves. They'll also happen, okay, with the exception of 1. All right, so when we talk about economic growth, we're talking about the GDP growing. But even more importantly, we got to have per capita GDP growing. That stands for gross domestic product, okay? That's per capita means per person. So if you think of it this way, our gross domestic product is simply the value of everything we produce in this country. And today it's around $17 trillion. So everything we produce in a given year is around 17 trillion. If you divide that out by our population, which is what, 315? Okay, I thought you said 350. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. I haven't had any kids in a long time, but it's still growing. I have 4 kids. Just for your. Well, it's it's kind of rare. People don't have a lot of kids anymore. I don't know why. It is expensive. My kids are 20, 18, 15, and 12. So anyway, per capita GDP is the important one, okay? So let's say if our gross domestic product went up by 5%, but our population went up by 20%, that means our per capita GDP actually went down. And that's how we measure our well-being. So in 2006, the per capita GDP was $42,000 per person. Today it's around 46,000, I think, 47, 48, it's in there. The point is that if we are producing more value every year per person, then our economy is growing and we're becoming more well off, okay? Because you can translate GDP to income. It's the same thing. The value of what we produce is also the value of our income. So that's the number one goal, okay? They want to promote policy that increases economic growth, okay? Numero dos. Policy should also promote full employment. And when we talk about full employment, we're not talking that every person has a job. We're saying that everybody that wants a job has a job, okay? But when we have full employment, that means we have about 95 to 96% full of employment, which means 4, 5, even 6% unemployment is acceptable, okay? Anybody know our current unemployment rate? No, it's not that high anymore. It's like 6.3 or 6.1. It's higher than it should be, but just barely. Yeah, it does not count them. The official number doesn't include people that gave up. If you count people who have accepted part-time work because that's all they could find, and people that have given up, and people who otherwise also dropped out of the labor force, it's around 15. Yes, ma'am. You had a question? I saw your hand. Yeah, it doesn't include our whole country because that'd be crazy. About 60% of our country wants a job. So 95% of them having one is considered full employment. Okay? See, like some of y'all probably don't want a job, do you? We're going to learn that in Unit 3, but it's through survey and statistical sampling. Okay? All right, economic efficiency. Do you remember the question of how to produce? How to produce is dealing with economic efficiency. Okay, so the government or policymakers in general would like to promote economic efficiency as well. So remember the cash for clunkers? That's actually not promoting efficiency on one hand, but it does on the other. So remember the 2 hands. It was promoting less gasoline being used by getting gas guzzlers off the road. But on the other hand, it was also throwing away a whole lot of resources, okay? Because if you think about it, to produce a new car requires resources. And so when you destroy a car that actually is driving on the road and you have to replace it with a new one, you're using up resources. So it's not necessarily efficient to do that. It takes years to get the payoff on an increased fuel efficiency. All right, so y'all good on these first 3? Okay, the next one, I think it's the next one, is the one that doesn't fit with the first 2. Okay, so these are bigger, stronger. Okay, this would be faster. So price level stability. What we mean here is that we don't want to see prices going up too fast. Okay, prices go up every year. In fact, if they didn't, that would be a whole nother problem. But we want to see prices go up about 2% every year. If it's going up by more than, say, 2.5 to 3%, then we have what's called inflation that we don't like. Okay, then it becomes a problem. So the reason this goal isn't necessarily compatible with the first 2 of economic growth and full employment is because whenever everybody has a job and everybody has money and everybody's buying stuff, prices go up. Okay? And so that's why price level stability is really, really hard to maintain along with economic growth. Okay? And some examples. 1972 to 1982. In 1972, a dollar would buy a certain, handful of goods. By 1982, it took $2 to buy that same stuff. Okay. And I'll show you some more examples. Can y'all imagine what kind of inflation this is? This, let's say in 1991, January 1st, you go to the Coke machine and you put $1 in, you get a Coke. On December 31st, you need to put $1,000 in. That's what that inflation means. So that's really bad. That's called hyperinflation. So if we ever had that kind of issue, which we've never had, but if we did, you'd have jeans go up to $140 million. Gas would be over $12 million a gallon. A pizza would be 80 million bucks. I thought I had one for movie. Oh yeah, pizza and movie. Sorry. So basically, that's why that would be an issue, because once you have inflation like that, it's really, really hard to solve. Y'all heard of Zimbabwe? Okay. They have really, really bad inflation. Now, this picture, I got this off the interweb about 4 or 5 years ago, because that's what it took to buy a beer in Zimbabwe at that time. These are Zimbabwe dollars. Don't freak out. They're not U.S. dollars. But then that same website had a little counter. Remember, I think Coach May showed you that counter for the debt? They had a similar counter like that for Zimbabwe inflation, and they just showed on the screen what a beer cost. And at the beginning of class, I could put it up. It'd be like, $100,000. By the end of class, it was like $200,000-300,000. So it was really crazy. So they printed a $10 million bill. Now that's a $10 million bill. Guess what they now have in Zimbabwe? Well, here's a $100 trillion bill. Does he have one? That's funny. Yeah. So that's a 10 trillion. Oh, wow. Now they have a $100 trillion bill. The official exchange rate, see, that's the thing, that there's an official exchange rate and then there's a real one. The official one's like really crazy, where nobody would ever give $1 for any of this stuff. But the one that's underground, the black market one, you'd have to look it up, but I mean, that is like 10 cents or something. Yeah, it's nothing. Some people worry about that happening in the United States because of all our spending, but we'll see. So far, right now, we're still okay, but you never know. All right, next, numero cinco, equitable distribution of income. When we say equitable, we don't mean equal. We just mean more like fair. Okay, like if you want to work hard and succeed in life, you should have that opportunity. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But we also don't want like a society where there's nothing but rich people and then nothing but poor people, because that's not equitable. And in fact, that would probably hurt our overall economy if we didn't have a strong middle class. Okay, y'all good on that? I'm going to move on. All right. Economic freedom is important. Here's why economic freedom is important. What is meant by that is you should have the freedom to buy what you want, to sell what you want, to earn money the way you want, all that stuff. Within reason, of course. You can't go out and sell crack and stuff like that, I don't think. That's all that means. And another thing of this would be, like, what do you want to do for a living? How many of y'all want to go to college? Okay. What if the government told you, no, we kind of need more machinists. I need you to learn that trade, and you're going to work in a factory. Would y'all like that? Okay. So that economic freedom means that you get to do what you want to do. Okay, but we also need economic security. This means that for those people that are down on their luck or otherwise can't take care of themselves, maybe they get injured, maybe they were born without skills, whatever, we have what we call an economic safety net. Okay, and y'all know what those are. There's welfare, food stamps, Medicaid, old people get their Social Security, disability income, all of that stuff. Okay, so we have that as well. And then the last thing is the balance of trade. It is desired that the world buy from the United States in an equal amount of what the United States buys from the world. Okay? And then the last little note down here, it's not part of the balance of trade, but as I mentioned before, some of these goals are complementary, and then some of them kind of go against each other. They're conflicting. Balance of trade, it's just imports and exports being equal. So, I mean, that's the goal. That hasn't happened in my entire lifetime. Y'all happy with this? Are we good? 8 economic goals? Okay. What time do we get out of here? Anybody know? 37? Okay, we're good. We're good on time. Yeah. I don't care how you take notes. Yeah, I really don't. I'm never going to look at them. All I know is this. After years of data, I know that people that handwrite or like on my laptop, you can handwrite on my laptop. So I love my laptop. It has a stylus. You can write on it. It's cool. People who do that, 9 times out of 10 do better in the class than people who just type throughout the class, because there's too many distractions when you're just typing. When you have it down as a notebook tablet, it works great. Plus, when we start doing graphs, I don't care how you're taking notes, but when we're doing graphs, you really need to write them because the muscle memory helps. Okay, you guys know what I'm talking about. All right, now we're going to talk about two ways to describe things that are going on in the economy. Okay, so we have what's called positive economics. Okay, and we'll deal with positive statements. Now, this isn't exclusive to the economic discipline. Okay, a positive statement is good in science classes and history and wherever. Okay, but a positive statement is something that can be tested. It's scientific. It's actually occurring. Okay, so shorthand, it's facts. Okay, positive economics deals with facts. So a positive statement about the temperature in the room right now is that it is 73 degrees. Does it feel that warm? It says it's 73. Okay. So some of y'all said it's cold, right? So if you just say it's cold in here, is that a positive statement? No, because somebody in here might be hot, right? So you don't know. But if we say it's 73 degrees, that's a positive statement. Okay? So positive economics deals with observable factual data. Okay, it's things that are currently going on in the economy. So if I tell you the exact unemployment rate today, that would be a positive statement. Okay? If I tell you what the economic growth rate is or the inflation rate is with a real number, that would be a positive statement. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a number. Okay? If I said the temperature is cooler in here today than it was yesterday, that's still something that you could test as being factual. Okay? Yeah, that's all it is. Subjective versus subjective. That's why you got Sergeant Friday here. Y'all know what that's from? They made a movie about this old TV show. It's called Dragnet, but even the movie's old. All right, how about this one? Normative economics. Now you're onto your subjective stuff. These are things that people might say ought to be in the economy. So if the unemployment rate is 6.1%, that'd be the positive statement. If I said it ought to be 5%, that would be the normative statement. So these are value judgments. They can't be tested. Okay? So it expresses opinions, value judgments. All right. So if y'all say the temperature in here is cold, that would be normative. If you say it's 73 degrees, that's positive. Everybody happy with that? We'll test our understanding in a second. Well, it's cold in here. No, but it could be that way too, though. Maybe it should be warmer in here. That's my policy recommendation. It should be warmer in here. That'd be normative. Okay. But right now it is cold in here. That's also normative because it's an opinion. Okay. If I said, let's use numbers now. It's 73 degrees in here. That's positive. But if I said it ought to be, through my policy, 75 degrees, that'd be normative because I'm deciding based on what I think it should be 75. That's still an opinion. That cool? You cool with that now? Is that okay? All right, so it's basically fact versus opinion. So you got these things side by side. The economy grew at 2.6%. It ought to grow more. Unemployment's 5.4%. Unemployment is just right. That's the opinion. Inflation's 3.2. Prices are too high. Okay, so it's fact versus opinion. Good on this? In this class is kind of like a lot of stuff we're throwing in just to get you ready to start learning economics. So it's just a lot of definitions. You know, what's theory? What do we mean by normative? What's deduction, induction, all that junk? Okay. Next class will be much better. All right. Who thinks they get this? They got this down. Positive and normative. All right. Katie, you ready? All right. You're gonna do this. The rich don't pay enough in taxes. Normative. Nice. All right. How many of y'all think she can do all 6 questions? I think there's 6. You think she can do it? Okay, the pressure is on. Let's see. The top 5% of wage earners pay 59% of all income taxes. Okay, you can test that, right? Okay, good job. Numero 3. There is too much poverty in America. What, you think there's people that say it's about right, or there's not enough? No, it is normative. You're right. Okay, it's normative. Economists might actually say that it is just about right. You just never know. All right, number 4. Hang on. 8% of U.S. families earn less than $18,000 per year. Okay, good job. Unemployment. Okay. Unemployment would be worse without government stimulus. That's normative. We don't know. There's no way to test that. Number 6, though, the unemployment rate is 9.3%. That's an old number. Positive, though, because you can test it. Okay. Government big spenders are not socialists. Okay. Good. You get a reward. All right. Don't tell her. Don't tell her. Don't tell her. Oh, you saw it on the syllabus. Okay, good.
I didn't know they were actually different.
I will go this whole semester. Somebody will be like, it'll be December, and they're like, what is that? What can you do with those things?
I just didn't know it was an actual nickel.
What can you do with those things?
I just get 1 point on a test or 2 points on a quiz.
Good. Okay. So they're worth points. So that's a good thing. All right. So now we're switching gears. We're going to talk about 2 types of economics. Macroeconomics, which is what we're learning in here, and then the other one is microeconomics. The basic difference is this. One's the big view, one's a small view. Okay? So macroeconomics is concerned with the economy as a whole. So it's things that are going on in the whole nationwide economy. Okay? So the analogy is that macroeconomics is concerned with the whole forest, whereas microeconomics, on the other hand, deals with a specific tree, or maybe all the leaves in the forest. You know, it's just something more specific. Okay? In our world, microeconomics deals with the actions of us as individuals or as businesses. Okay? You know, what influences them, whereas the macroeconomy deals with the whole economy as a whole thing. Okay, so big picture, small picture. That's how you would get this down. Any questions there? You all ready to roll? I'm going to wait on Kate. Kate, we good? All right. We'll move on. So some examples. Talking about production. Microeconomics might be how much steel is being produced. Okay, that's just one industry, steel. Or macroeconomics would be total industrial output. So that would include steel and cars and even farming and, you know, everything. Okay? How much office space is available in downtown Dallas? That would be a microeconomic, you know, thing. Our total gross domestic product would be macro. Okay, let's talk about prices. Y'all have heard of medical inflation, right? Prices in the medical industry are going up faster than the economy as a whole. Same with education. When y'all go to college, it costs more. Oh, you want to hear something funny? I found my I forget what you call it, but basically the billing statement from Texas A&M in 1989, and it was like my total tuition fees Everything I got as a bill from the university was $800 for a semester. Yeah, isn't that hilarious? Hey, I got a daughter at A&M right now. It's like $6,000 a semester, I think. So it's gone up. Anyway, if we look at the inflation at A&M, that's microeconomics. If we look at overall inflation in the whole economy, that would be macro. Okay? So y'all get that? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's still micro. Very good. Yeah, that's confusing, right? Yeah, but you got it down. Yeah. Because we're still looking at one industry versus the whole economy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you'll learn all these coming soon. Okay? But yeah. Or even the unemployment rate in the construction industry versus the overall unemployment rate. So that would be micro and macro. Well, it doesn't necessarily. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily. In fact, it's hard. You could put all of these things in GDP. Yeah, all three of those would be part of gross domestic product. So that's all. Okay. All right, so let's quiz ourselves. Kate, who's next? Yeah. What's his name? Jacob Packard? All right. Let's go. The price of digital cameras increased 5% last year. Good job. All right. Unemployment was 5.4% for the United States workforce. Huh? Macro, good. Okay, no cheating. You can't say macro. Okay, because that sounds like both. So you got to be very specific. We should do this like in Spanish. What would it be in Spanish? Micro and macro? Okay. Micro, macro. All right. All right. Unemployment in the auto industry. Very good. The Bishop Lynch National Bank lowers its interest rates. Nice. The Consumer Price Index, that's all prices. Macro, very good. The computer industry laid off 8% of its workers. Micro. Price of gasoline. It is micro. That is tricky, though, isn't it? All right. Yeah, pass that down to him. Okay. So the thing with the gasoline, though, you could make the argument that if the price of gas goes up, that's going to make everything go up, right? But it's still micro because we're talking about specifically about gas. Okay. Plus gas, do y'all remember Hurricane Katrina? Gas went up real fast, and then it came back down. So it didn't really affect the overall price level in the economy. All right. Y'all.
Walk with me now. I'm gonna show